The games, board games. I might be talking about board games, but I'm not gonna shout. I am starting off this streaming with a little bit of singing, and today it is day 2, and I'm going to bring a new game to you. It's called a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your beetroots. And that is the name, and it is true. But I want to bring a new version that might have fishes. It's called a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and counting your radishes. There are going to be a new graphical design, and I hope people will enjoy the game that is mine. Board games and a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are so different and counting your turnips or beetroots or radishes. That's what I'm talking about. It's day 2 of my Kickstarter, and I'm not gonna shout. No shouting today. But what I am going to say is that good morning, good afternoon, good night, good whatever it is, wherever you are. It is 10 a.m. UK time, and that means it is time for Busy Beats and Board Game Blether. Today we've had some beats, and I'm going to blether about a board game, and specifically, I'm going to blether about the thing that I'm currently showing off, about what to do during day 2. What have I gotten done over day 1? How did it go? How am I feeling? Like maybe this emotional journey might be something that you're interested. I don't know. But anyway, let me try and bring up the screen. So this is day 2, and because it's a very short campaign, we started with 9 days to go. We are only on 8 days to go. It is going to finish in just over a week. 148 backers. So it's quite far from the radical kind of outpouring of people for a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. But, it's nothing to sniff at. There are a decent number of people, but it gives me a good sense that probably I shouldn't be printing too many of this particular game. And I'll see how it goes, for the rest of it. How do I think it's going to end up? I don't know, but maybe 500 if I'm lucky. Around this time, at the start, you get like a third of it. And then in the middle, you've got this long bit where you get about a third of the people. Then at the end, if you've got a normal length campaign, you get a third. So I'm imagining that we're going to end up with, I'm going to hope for 500 people, which would be brilliant. Maybe if we get like 400 copies spoken for, then 400 is a decent number to print. I could do potentially 100 of each different type. That would be good. But yeah, I'll also be sending out the survey to see which graphical versions. Now I have been promoting it, as you can see here. This is roughly the order. So I did before the launch. I went to Shelf Clutter and Block. While I was launching it yesterday, you saw me doing stuff on Twitter and the Instagram and Facebook business page. I put it on my personal Facebook page, on a couple of Facebook groups, on a Discord, Board Game Design Lab. I did an update for my previous Kickstarter, which I tried to make sure it was a good update, saying, "Hey, here's something new. Here's the print and play version for a game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings and complementing the complements. And yes, there's two things that are going to be coming a bit later. But yeah, here's my next Kickstarter." And people have been spreading the word. I massively appreciate that. What I definitely want to do today is to send out a mailing list as soon as I finish this off. Um, Simply putting it on another Discord, putting it on a few other Facebook groups, and yeah, doing a bit more Twittering and Instagramming. I was actually on I was up quite late last night. I attended a boot camp for people who are doing social media, very much geared towards Instagram. The person saying, "Oh yeah, do your stories, try to aim for 12 a day." I was thinking, wow, 12 a day? But these are people who are into health and wellness and diet. And maybe in that industry, you need to do a lot more. I personally think that if I did 12 a day, I'm not sure anyone would be checking them all out. But certainly it made me think, yeah, they were saying, yes, remember, stories are the things that you can just do easily, like do your meals. Obviously, that's for people who are all about diets and stuff. And so for me, it might be, hey, I'm excited that we just got to 100. Hey, this is the new update that I've written, reminding people that the Kickstarter is there. Um, I should probably do some more posts, uh, like using the pictures from Aircon, which I just went to, using my pictures, using some of the videos. There's definitely a lot more content that I could be sharing. And the other question is, do I want to do that all up front or do it in the middle? It's good to have potentially some stuff, some content for in the middle, but when someone's asking, hey, should I back at the start or should I back later on? Well, the more people that back earlier on, the more it's going to become a virtuous cycle. The more backers you have, the more backers you get. And so, yeah. Anyway, let's talk about recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights, recent highlights, playing games and other delights, recent highlights. What is going on yesterday? Um, I never actually got to go outside, which isn't great. I did make sure to have a bit of a sit down, to have a bit of a lunch for an hour that I wasn't working. Um, my sleep pattern seems to have really gone off since aircon. And I came back and then I had a nap. And yesterday I was waking up early to do the work, and then I had a long nap in the middle of the day, and then the evening I couldn't quite sleep, so I did a bit more work. But I got to attend the USA boot camp social media lesson thing, and yeah, it was went to bed, got up. I feel like I'm not fully rested, I'm going to admit, but I will try to get to bed earlier tonight. Try to do a bit more exercise. But highlights, everyone who's backed is brilliant. Some of the outpouring of support, someone saying, yeah, it was a shame that categorical, but obviously I'm still going to support you. Someone remembering that I shouted their name on bridges years ago. A quick conversation with Mark Cook about Aircon. Um, those are some of my highlights. And obviously the launch itself, seeing those initial people being blue, boom, boom, I'm going to back. So, hello. I hope that you're well, Rob. Rob Harper, a lovely person. And apparently we might see each other on Sunday. I am quite excited about that. Um, oh, yes, yesterday I didn't actually go into the fact that on Monday, while I was coming back from Harrogate in the car, I was talking about what I would do for UK Games Expo with my helpers. I talked about the balloon machine, and then they said, what you need to do is make a game about balloons. And I said, are you seriously telling me to make an extra game between now and UK Games Expo? And they said, Yes, I am. And so that's what I'm doing between now and, middle of May. Yeah, basically during April mainly, I'm going to try and focus on making a game about balloons and putting things into balloons. It won't be actual balloons, it will be a card game themed around balloons, but then that will be like, oh, why have you got Bez's game in balloon? Well, Bez has a new Bezzy bargain bag about balloons. I'm thinking it's going to be a push your luck game, although I also thought that a cooperative game might be workable. I need to want and think about it. Rob says you don't want to overinflate your expectations. Yeah, exactly. And so we'll see how I get on. Hello, J. Guard. I hope that you are generally well. I hope that you are having a lovely day. And let me actually click the link and put the link into the um, comments just in case anyone isn't already backing my latest Kickstarter. Then please go and back it right now. There we go. So, yes, brilliant thing. So, what are some of your recent highlights? Please let me know if there's anything you want to give a shout out to, anything that you're starting to work on, anything that you got up to yesterday. Yesterday, my food was, what did I even eat? I can barely remember. I had a little bit of tin curry plus I want to say a big bowl of cereal, a really big bowl of cereal, plus I had three sandwiches. No, wait. Well, it depends how you count your sandwiches. It was basically two bits of bread, four bits of bread. So two kinds of, I'd call them two sandwiches. Anyway, sandwich. I don't have a toasty maker. Puts it in the oven. Lovely. Anyway, brilliant thing. Brilliant thing was a little thing which is brilliant. I'm going to say ovens are brilliant. And also vegetables are brilliant. I mean, I do like the idea of promoting veganism in like games. And I'm not a vegan. I'm not even a vegetarian. I do eat the flesh of dead animals. It is that is what I sometimes do. But I think that if we are, I was thinking about a future game that I was making where I had different things that were sometimes edible, some foodstuffs, and it made me think that maybe I don't want to put in the animals as a foodstuff. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe I don't want to like let's not do that and let's kind of yeah, even if subconsciously, if you're grabbing a card and saying, is this a food or not? Then if you grab a chicken then or a cow and then you're like, oh, you see that as food? That's not the world that we should necessarily be creating. And so if I just remove those animals, I mean, someone could still grab the giraffe and say, yeah, this is food, but at least in the Western world, most people aren't going to think of that way. They're going to think of a giraffe as an animal that you do not eat. And so I think that just veganism, vegetarianism, and just even if you aren't a vegetarian, trying to think how much meat do you actually need? Because we probably might not need quite as much as we're eating. But yeah, it's just thoughts getting through my mind, and also thinking about the subconscious impact of what's depicted within a game upon the real life choices of the people who then go on to play it. So yes, vegetables are brilliant. Vegetables are sustainable, vegetables can be delicious, vegetables can be colorful, and also they are less likely to have bacteria. If you reheat your vegetables, you're less likely to get ill than if you're reheating your meat. Rob says, working on a stupid game with a dark setting. The Reign of Terror. It's not going to be very original, but that's not the point. I'm interested to hear more about it. Maybe chat to you on Sunday afternoon about it. So yes, feel free to comment, ask questions, follow before as I go on into the main topic. So yes, Down there, how much should I be promoting? It would be, in theory, I could be promoting on every single Facebook page at the same time. I could be doing little comments on my own posts, maybe deleting a reply to someone else and then rewriting that comment to bump it up so that more people see it. I could share every picture individually on Instagram. I could share things multiple times. I could retweet my own tweets on Twitter. But there is a point where it becomes just too much, where it becomes irritating. And I don't want people to think of me as an irritating person. That's the key thing. Like, sure, the Kickstarter is only 9 days, so it's not like people are going to have to suffer through that for weeks and weeks and weeks. But, and on the other side of the coin, if I promote it in the Facebook groups that have promoted it in so far, then I'm missing a trick. I want to make sure that I get the Real Time Gamers Facebook group, that I get the Martin's Print and Play Hideaway, that I get Board Game Exposure. Like, that's probably got a lot more crossover with the places I've already done it. But the point is that if I stopped here, there'd be a lot of people who might really love the game, but they've just never heard of it. You want to be enough so that everyone's heard of it at least once, probably even 2, maybe 3 times, but maybe no more than that. Like if someone keeps hearing the same thing over and over, and you want it to be an exciting thing, you don't want to be like, oh my god, how long is this going on? So, a quick hello to Yoda. It was lovely to see you, and I'm sorry that on Sunday you came over and then I was kind of with someone else, and then you wandered off, and then I ran after you. But no, it was lovely to kind of actually see you in real life now that I know who you are. Um, but yeah, anyway, the point of how much do you promote, and that is, and thank you for understanding. But yeah, how much do you promote is the key thing. That's all about the difficult balance, and I think that probably I am on the verge of under promotion for the first day. I think that I could have done twice as much yesterday. I didn't have all the posts prepared ahead of time. In retrospect, that might be good. Next time, maybe I will not launch a Kickstarter 2 days after the day after I come back from a convention. That's maybe not the best idea. Give myself a bit of time to actually write the things ahead of time, or maybe I would have been better off, writing them, 3 weeks ago or something. I don't know. Anyway, given at this point, I think the key thing is to be kind to myself, make sure that I actually get to go out of the house today, make sure that I'm spending time on other things, because it's so easy. It's not just about exhausting other people. It's also the other potential problem is exhausting yourself. If you're just staring at a screen being like, oh, I need to do this, refreshing. And yes, you want to reply to every single comment on your Kickstarter page. You want to thank people, you want to engage people and ask them what they want. And if you look at my updates, so here we go. I've got, 7 people who are saying, hey, this is 6 people who said, this is which one I would prefer. And then one thing where I'm saying, okay, this is the tally of the votes, and I'll probably finish off the votes when we get to 150 backers, maybe like once I write the next update. I'll do my mailing list and I'll write the next update and say, okay, this is how the votes were. And if I look at all the comments, we've got a question that I actually answered. Mark was just kind of giving me a shout out saying, and all of these comments definitely push it further up the algorithm. I hate the fact that we are so beholden to the algorithm, but that is the situation. That yes, on Instagram, I need to remember most people aren't like me. Most people don't look at literally everything from everyone they're following. Probably it's better for me to, yeah, if I want to make 2 posts in a day, I should go ahead and do it. If I want to, if I'm thinking, do I make this story? Boom, it should be no decision. It should just be, yes, do the story. If I'm thinking, do I do the tweet? Do I not do the tweet? Just do the tweet, because those are mediums where you can do lots of things. But the key thing is, yes, with Facebook, don't post everywhere at once. Space it out. Rewrite it for each different place. Try to focus on a different thing. So for my own Facebook group, so for my personal Facebook page, it's me reminding people how much they support me, because presumably people who see that are people who like me. On the Girls Who Like Board Game Talk by Girls Who Like Board Games Facebook page, someone talks about how nice it was that that it's cheap. So I kind of highlighted the price for Big to Cock. I talked about that, and I also talked about if 10 people comment, I will put in a creature in a Big to Cock t-shirt, because I am going to have people in little waistcoats and clothes, and there'll be lots. Some creatures will have hats, and there'll be multiple creatures with hats. So if you see a hat, you don't know how many eyes they've got. So it'll kind of play around a little bit, kind of potentially confuse you with the eye count. You can't just see the silhouette and know instantly. You actually have to count the eyes, which is going to be interesting. Yep. Rob, 100% stupid games for the win. And I think that is something I realised with a game about drawing creatures, complementing the drawings and complementing the complements. It was a stupid idea, and I love the fact that it actually makes an emotional impact on everyone who's playing it. I think that stupid games can make people laugh, can make people smile. Lots of love. And have a great day. J-Fool's Guard also overthinks. I think that, sometimes you just want to train yourself to be like, do the thing, we can do it. And so, yep, that is. And where should I be promoting? Well, that question is basically wherever people might not have already heard about it, but might be interested in the game. Those are the places I should prioritize. Hello, Puskas Tibor. Thank you very much for backing for the print and play. I really appreciate it. And if I may be so egotistical or egocentric or whatever, of course, if you know anyone who might also like the print and play, then please let them know for them to back it for £1 as well, because every backer helps, and that's why every 100 backers I add on a digital reward. It looks like this 100 backers are getting some drawing bits, and then the next, if by the time you reach like 300, 400, I imagine like we could have an entirely new game, and we could be talking about that, whether that's the Bloom game or one of the other things that are going to be my future Bezzy bargain bags. Yes. So, but thank you. Honestly, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to do these things. If you do any extra like promotion on my part, I love you for it. If you just back it, then I love you for that already. I just want you to be aware. And yes, keep up the good vibes yourself. But where should I be promoting it? I should be promoting it in Martin's Print and Play Hideaway, because those people don't necessarily go out into the other Facebook groups. I should be promoting it on my mailing list, because some of them aren't on Facebook. I should be promoting it once more on Board Game Geeks. See if I can. Again, I should have written a longer thing ahead of time, but maybe if I ask Eric Martin, nicely, they might be able to put it up within the next week. I don't know how the schedule on the front page is looking. But yes, write a post, remind people that it's up on Kickstarter. Anyway, I'm trying to get better at these things. I'm trying to have a list of where and when. And this list that I've got here that you can see to the side, all of these things are going to be, I'm going to use a very similar list for my next game because I can like mutate it and yeah, think about it next time. Now, I wanted to finish off with a summary of how this game came to be. Anyone who's read my latest update, hello Jess, lovely to see you. Anyone who's read my latest update for the Kickstarter, which I will post one more time for those who haven't seen it, will know that it started at Cannes 2020. I was going to Nuremberg for the first time. I had a couple of games that I felt these might be interesting for the publishers. These might be something that we can sell a whole bunch of copies of. I am going to go to Nuremberg. I'm going to try to make some meetings. I'm going to try to schedule some appointments. I managed to talk to Cocktail Spring and Yellow and Life and a bunch of other people. And I also and Hardy from Helvetic, I got a good sense of what they were looking for. Between Nuremberg and Cannes, which was literally 1 month apart, I invented, designed, had a couple of playtests of a brand new game. A game about quickly matching words to pictures, but never words to words or pictures to pictures. And that game, I worked out the maths. I've done a lot of games at this point. I was able to say, okay, this is what I need to make it work. And I got these things together. I had a playtest. I was like, yeah, boom, it works as I expected. I think I made like one small tweak based on that, but yeah, I took it to Cannes, I showed it off, and they absolutely loved it. And that was really validating. I mean, two companies saying, yes, we love this game. We would like to take it. We would like to consider it. We would like to test it with children. As it happens, that never happened because, there was a pandemic. There is a pandemic, and the pandemic started shortly after that, so they weren't able to test it with the children. But whilst walking around, I was thinking, this is how I could make a decent income. Because yes, I am working full time as a game designer publisher. I'm spending, frankly, more hours on this than most people spend on any full time job. But I'm not earning as much as when I was working in a supermarket. Like this 2 years ago, I earned a bit more. This year, unfortunately, it looks like I'll be earning quite a bit less because of how. And it's not all about the money. Of course, it isn't. But I need to make money to afford to pay the rent, to be able to afford some amount of food, because otherwise, yeah, I'll have to go back to, I don't know, working in a supermarket or something. And yeah, I would like to be able to continue doing this full time. Now, in my head at the time, I was thinking, what are some games that I could get out that will sell tens or hundreds of thousands of copies? Because that's what Yogi's allowed me to do, to generate an income, to get a little bit of money year on year. And it does take time, like between you inventing the game and between the game coming out. It could be like, especially if there's it's you typically expect it to be like a good 3 years. But once I have like 3, maybe 4 titles under my belt that are being sold by other publishers, then I'm feeling a lot more secure. I'm not, oh my gosh, if this one thing stops selling, then I'm not going to be able to survive. So That is the time when walking around I thought, what else can I make that will appeal to people? What can I make that I am good at making, that ties into my own personal expertise, and that could sell a lot? And it's important to think about, what your expectations of each game are. And hello, Vivan, it is lovely to have you, and I'm really honoured that you've been inspired to finish your prototype and bringing it over on Sunday. I'll look forward to seeing you. Even if you don't get it finished, please do come over. And if you're there at 12, I will try to be there early. It'll be lovely to have a chat. And hello, Jessica Mederingham. Thank you for your support. Yes, just says, boom, yes, almost 300%. Oh, we just passed 150 backers. Amazing. We're at 151. And yes, we're at 1,429 of, let me make that a little bit bigger. And that is really cool to see. But this for me is the much more meaningful number. It is, slightly sad that this won't do nearly as well as my last Kickstarter, but it is probably still going to end up being my second biggest Kickstarter, which is kind of amazing. And it is still, even though this might not go gangbusters in the way that a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises did, this is a phenomenal amount. My first Kickstarter got 173 backers. I think that my Kickstarter for Categorical got 171. And I basically reached that. I expect to pass that within 2 days. That's amazing. And yeah, that number, 151, that is amazing. Like, that number of people to support me. I am honestly super honored. Anyway, so back to the story of how this game came to be. And also, yes, when you make a game, think about what you want to do with that game. Sometimes I make games and I am actually going to be working on a game that I've got to finish by the 1st of April. That's called Dungeons and Therapy. There is no money in it. It's a game, it's a LARP, it's about people who might be adventuring in an RPG, but then they realize that the world's not completely black and white. That's me trying to make a LARP. That's me trying to see what happens. And there's got to be a bit of playfulness in your design. I am going to be sometimes when I make a game, sometimes it's just I want to see how this will work when I get it down onto the table. Sometimes it's just a case of, I want to try to make a game that has paper clips in it. Let's see what happens. And even if it doesn't sell with the quantities that I would like, even if it's difficult to pitch, you've got to follow your whimsy, follow your something a little bit different. Some games, like I did a co-design not too long ago with Bree Goldman, I want to say, and then we had a chat. It was basically like a game jam. We chatted for, I want to say, 2 days. So it was like a full 5 hours one day. And then the next day, like, I spent a while on it, and then we had a second meeting. And that was honestly just to get to know each other, just to see, could we do this together? And I said, if after a couple of days it's not working out, but you have to have a good idea of why you're making this game. Are you making for your personal satisfaction? And so, yes, I wanted to make a quick, easy, something that's simple to teach, fast to play. There are so many speed games where you're matching things, games where you're looking at a bunch of words and trying to work out the odd one out and doing a quick puzzle that takes you about 2 seconds, and then you shout out the word and you've got to be the first to do it. Sometimes there's a memory aspect. There's all sorts of speed card flipping games. Sometimes you've got to count stuff. That's fairly normal. But as I wandered around Cannes, I thought to myself, there's nothing about not matching. Now, I asked on Twitter, so please let me know if there are any speed games about not matching. Um, so for not matching stuff, you've got Set, which offers you the potential to not match or to match. That's kind of a step up from most speed games where the puzzle might take you like 10 seconds rather than 2 seconds. And you've got set collection games where you might want diversity or engine building or whatever, but that feels like a step up. Or are there any other simple games about just avoiding matches? And I don't think there are. Hello, Release the Evil. I will answer your question in just a minute, but I'm going to tell this story first. So yes, I thought, what can I have? I want different elements. I want to have this element not matching those things, this element not, and I could have just had different pictures, but I thought, yeah, picking up cards and having to go through them all, that's kind of annoying. I did once upon a time make a game for the L deck, I realized, which was about not matching. It was the opposite of Grabble. You had to say, okay, this, and this are different, boom. And it was the fact that everything was in a particular place, which actually made it playable. If you were to play speed not matching with something that looked vaguely like double cards, but sometimes there weren't any matches, I think that would be hellish and horrible to check after the fact. So in my mind, I was inspired by those flip books where you've got creatures, so they have a certain number of heads, a certain number of bodies, a certain number of bottoms. I did some calculations on the spreadsheet. I wanted it to be likely that there's a match, likely enough that you can't just match randomly. In my head, I was thinking something like flip two over, and then people shout out, or keep flipping over, and as soon as there's a not match, maybe you touch the two things that don't match, kind of like Twin It. That was another idea that I had. Being inspired by other games. So you flip it over. If there's two creatures that are totally different, put your finger on them both. And if you're right, you win those cards. If you lose, then you lose one of your previously gotten cards. I had another version where one person just kept flipping and flipping until one of the other people did it. I made the creatures. I ended up making them quite alienish just for clear identification. It's a lot easier when you've got different shaped heads and different number of body parts, like one's got wings, one's got tentacles. That's a lot easier to check rather than just saying, okay, you've got cowboy boots and having to keep everything literally exactly the same. I mean, in theory, you could do one with repeated graphics, but at least for drawing the prototype, they were all hand-drawn, so it took me about half an hour, maybe 20 minutes, about half a minute per creature. I tried to get it speedy. Anyway, so I played it with Chris and McCall. We all enjoyed it, but it wasn't quite gelling together. And then I couldn't play it again for over a year because pandemic. Later on in 2021, I started going back to the playtest. London playtest started meeting up again. It was lovely. David Brain, Ellie Dix, seeing these people who I hadn't physically seen in over a year. It was wonderful. I playtested a few games, and around the time when, a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after some makes noises did really well, I thought, well, maybe I can get into doing more busy bargain bags. And yes, I will talk about that in a minute. But I thought about, hey, how about I bring out that game? That was an interesting game. And so I took the components, I played it a few times over the course of one Friday. I cycled over there. I had maybe 3 different ideas in my head for the rules of the game. It was always going to be about the creatures. It was always going to be about having 2 creatures that are totally different. But there's a lot that you can do within that. And it was David Brain who was playing and then feeling frustrated that they were always half a second slower than everyone else. And then they said, yep, there's just no point in me playing. I'm feeling like emotionally I'm removing myself. I would much rather play Grabble. And Grabble, for those who don't know, is a game that I invented for the L deck. What I like about it is that everyone's getting points. You grab, you grab, you grab. As long as you match, as long as you don't make a mistake, you get some points. And even if you're half the speed of someone else, in jungle speed, you would get 0. You would always lose. You would just be frustrated. But in Grabble, if you're playing a 3-player game, then maybe it's 24 points, 12 and 12. And sure, the other 2 people are going to not win, but at least they can compare amongst themselves. At least next game, if they get 20 points, 14 and 14, maybe they feel a little bit happier. And also they'll feel, wow, we just tied perfectly 2 times in a row. What are the chances of that? Anyway, the point being, everyone grabbing separately allows you to have that satisfaction. It allows you to have that hope that you're going to do something. It allows you to have your own personal achievements. We played it. We played it again. It was definitely good fun. And it was at that point that Andrew Beardsley, designer of one published game, The Zombie Princess, I can't remember the full title of the game, but Andrew Beardsley, who's got a brilliant mind, who comes to things with a very left field point of view, said, this needs a little bit extra. What if you had something extra like turnips, and then when you flip over a turnip, everyone has to clap their hands together or stand up or sit down, and I don't know what you should do, but everyone's smiling when I talked about the turnip, so maybe you should do it. And it was true. Everyone was smiling. And in retrospect, you've got the surreal creatures, the weird aliens, and then you've got the mundane turnips or the beetroots, or now it's going to be a bunch of radishes. And there is something delightful about that. But I don't want to add extra rules. It felt like it was already kind of, I didn't want to go too much higher. I didn't want to say, you need to remember all the things that this thing does. So what would turnips do? Well, clearly, if you grab a turnip, it's totally different to the creature. So you can then put a creature after it, because now it's not just about grabbing creatures that are totally different. It's about grabbing cards, and every card needs to be totally different to the one before it. So you can go creature, turnip, creature, turnip, creature, turnip. And then the question becomes, why not just keep grabbing turnips? Well, clearly you need a maximum number of them. So maybe you can only grab, I don't know, 3. So that's the thing. Now you need to keep count of your turnips. And that was, I think, what went through my head in the course of about 20, 30 seconds after Andrew Beardsley initiated this, sparked the idea, bringing up turnips, a completely different object. And then I was like, okay, let's just chuck in some blank cards. I had a bunch of blank cards. I didn't even bother drawing the turnips. Just said, pretend that these are something else, and you can grab 3 of them. And then it was good. It was like, it felt like it kind of took the game from being just about speed, making 0 decisions, but like flipping it up and see what's going on. And like also it meant that you could keep all your turnips until the end, so that, because before you could get to the end and there's 5 creatures in the middle and no one can grab any of them. But now, if you're canny, if you think about it, you want to leave at least a couple of your vegetables until later on. And so if you get into a situation where there's only 5 creatures left and you can't grab any of them, well, now you boom, vegetable. Now you get a creature, keep on going until you get locked out, or there's only 1 or 2 creatures left, and now we do a quick veggie creature just to finish it off. And thank you, Jay Guard. I'm glad that you love the turnips, and I'm really glad that it feels like it's elevated the game, because this game essentially has one decision. Like Jungle Speed, in theory, it's a purely performative game. Like if we talk about a game could be testing 3 things, right? A game could be all about your creativity, your self-expression, maybe you're drawing, maybe you're playing a role-playing game, and it's about that. Sometimes a game is about strategic decisions, choosing, do I play this card or that card? Do I take that or that? When you've got an actual choice, and maybe you need to do a little bit of calculation. And that also goes into the games which are about the people, about observing their, but you are making some sort of decision. And then you've got the third kind of game that has 0 decisions. Like in the digital space, you've got Dance Dance Revolution, you've got Samba de Amigo. Most rhythm-based games are like this. You've got Jungle Speed, you've got Twin It, you've got Double. Sure, there's, in theory, a little bit of a, and I'm just doing a quick stretch, there's in theory a bit of a decision of, hey, how do I scan these cards, and do I look at, which thing do I look at first, or you can have a strategy that way. But really, these games are about performance. Like Yogi, it's 100% about performance, unless you play the Solanzistic mode, obviously. But then, the vegetables, the beetroots, the turnips, the radishes that are going to come out. This is what gives this game exactly one decision. It's not primarily about, making those choices. It is still primarily about the execution, about the performance, and a little bit about the luck of what you turn over. But when do you grab your vegetables? Do you grab them at the start? Do you grab them as soon as you start struggling? Do you grab them when you flip one over? Do you add it or not? Because if you grab it, well, it's going to be really easy for you to grab your next creature, but maybe you do them all in a burst. Maybe you do them in bits and drabs. And that is the one decision. Now, playing this game, it was good fun. It was already good fun, so I played it with my housemates. I played it with at a board game club that wasn't about playtesting. I tried the different numbers. 3 seemed like too little. 4 seemed more interesting. 5 seemed like a really good number. I think that more is actually even better, because with 2 players playing one deck, you could say, okay, we'll grab 7 vegetable cards each. And that would be fine, but I wanted to work out how many could I get into a deck of cards. So looking at the number count, you've got 54 cards in a deck. I need to use one of them as the front cover and rules, one of them as the back cover and rules. That leaves 52. Now for the creatures, I worked out that 4 times 3 times 3, 4 heads, 3 bodies, 3 bottoms. That makes 36. That seemed reasonable. Before I was playing with 48, one of each type, but then as soon as I wanted to add in something, I was thinking, yeah, let's go down to 36. Let's see how that is. And that means that I can have 16 vegetable cards. 16 vegetable cards. Now, what does that mean? That means that in theory, you could say everyone grabs 4 each, and this is a 2 to 4 player game. You could say everyone grabs 5 each, and it's a 2 to 3 player game with one deck. And if you want to play with more people, you play with more decks. I mean, I could have added rules. I could have said, well, if you play with 2 people, it's this many. If you play with 3 people, it's this many. If you play with 4 people, it's this many. But I wanted to have consistent rules. And the thing about 5 is at 5, you can lose count. Even as an adult, unless I go into the game with a strong idea of when I'm going to pick up my vegetable cards, that's an additional thing to keep in my head, whilst I'm also counting the eyes, counting the appendages, counting the legs. And it's interesting, like once you're counting two different things, you definitely get confused. And so, yes, 5 seemed to be the good number. Also, it offers a little bit of strategic potential of, let's call it self-expression, like it's choice, because now it's not just, okay, 3, well, I probably want to do all 3 at the end. It's a case of, well, if I want to do all 3 at the end, maybe I do 1 at the start, just when I grab it, 1 here, maybe I do all 5 at the end, maybe I do 4 in the middle, and then, or 3 in the middle, and then a couple at the end. And I normally kind of see how the game is going, but yeah, I feel you. Counting to 5 can be hard if you've got other things going on in your mind. Anyway, so that's pretty much how it went. I made the game. I released it for Dragon Meat. People enjoyed it. I numbered all the creatures and the vegetables so that you can, in theory, separate them. It's totally possible. But someone asked me, could you have different colors so that we can separate them out easily? And it was, well, not really, because then it will be more expensive to print. But having said that, yeah, maybe I could. Maybe I want to do it because it's fun for me, because there is an element of whimsy in my game creation. And sometimes I make things because I really want them to exist. Like, I don't know how many people will put all 5 of these decks together, but I am looking forward to doing it myself. And I don't know if the Radish version will be too much for everyone else, but I really want it to exist because I feel like that's what I would want. And so that's what I'm going to make. And yes, it would have been cheaper to do 500 of one thing than 100 each of 5 different things, because, you know, then it makes the printing easier, so I get a better saving. But it also allows people to say, okay, do you want the black and white version? Do you want the red version? Do you want the colorful version? Do you want the simple version? Do you want the tricky version? And so I did the beetroot version so that people could mix them together and separate them out more easily. And also, having played it at a convention, it's like, yeah, if you had to organize them by number, that takes a good 10 minutes. If you just have to separate them easily, anyone can do that. You can do that in like less than a minute. And so, yeah, that's the end of the story, unless anyone else has any questions about the history. J Fool's Guard, thank you for who says, seems like a good call to keep the rules the same no matter the player count. And going back to Release the Evil, who says, hello, fan of you and your games, the number of which I've bought or backed. Can you talk about your decision to ship in a bag versus a deck box? Absolutely, I can. Basically, shipping in a bag makes it cheaper. I can afford to sell these games for £5. I could not afford to do that if I was printing it in a box. Printing it in a bag, I was able to print off 50 copies of a game about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify the monsters and make noises. In retrospect, I should have printed 100 copies, and that's going to be my general number going forward. But that number, as someone who goes to multiple conventions every year, that's a number that I can fairly easily sell. I might not be able to sell it all in one convention, and obviously if it's 100 each of very similar games, like the different graphical versions of a game about quickly grabbing creatures, that's totally different, and counting your turnips, beetroots, radishes, you know, that makes it slightly more expensive, but still, I feel like I can probably sell through of these. Whereas if I was printing 500 of a thing, let alone 1,000. I don't know if I could sell that. I mean, when I did my last Kickstarter and it went to 550 copies spoken for, that was amazing to me. And yeah, I printed 1,000, and I've still got a couple of hundred left. But I sold a bunch at Terracon. I'll sell a bunch, at every convention I go to. I'll sell a bunch at UK Games Expo. 100. Then I was able to get a good idea of what the demand is. And the other thing is that I can do it in the UK. And a quick hello, Sate. Lovely to have you join us. So selfishly, I'm happy to have you here, but I do hope you get better soon. Back to the question about why ship it in a bag. A bag, yeah, that is something that I can afford to do a low number of, do it in the UK, get it sent to me. I'm at the point where if I want 1,000 copies of a game made, a lot of manufacturing companies just don't talk to me. They know that I'm thinking about maybe 1,000 from them. Whereas another company, they're going to do like 10, 20,000. Who are they going to speak to? Obviously, the people who are printing more. They've got limited capacity. And so at this point, I am going to have to deal with people who are more geared up for smaller print runs. And so, yeah, if I print at the point where I was printing 1,000 with the print on demand people in the UK, in theory, I could have printed, like if this was, let's say 2015, I could have printed 1,000 in a tuck box for marginally more, and then probably gotten it into shops, and it would have been easier to sell. But then I've got to deal with the logistics of getting it sent over here internationally. With Brexit, that is an issue. With the way that shipping is off during like our late stages of the pandemic, that is an issue. With, yeah, there's a reason why I had to send a horrible update to everyone who backed Categoricals, because yeah, I would love to, if someone else were able to deal with all the logistics and me just, run the Kickstarter and do the design and the artwork, and someone else does all the, printing in boxes, and sure, if it turns out to be 50 pence more per thing, then sure, I'm going to give the Kickstarter backers an unexpected bonus, give it to them. I would have given it to them in a box, and then immediately raise the price to, I don't know, £8, because that's still a very cheap thing. Potentially even, yeah. But would have been able to get it into shops, would have been able to have it in shops and for people to be happy to buy it. Because yes, Ludoquist in London has bought a good number of my games, the Bezzy bargain bags, but someone sees it on the shelf and I'm aware it doesn't look as good. I'm aware it doesn't look as nice on the shelf. I'm aware that it feels like potentially a bit tacky. But yes, I am very much inspired by Cheap Ass Games, who said, what's the cheapest we can do it? And my whole philosophy for these things is I would like to make games. And I would like to make games in a way that people are willing to take a chance, that it's a no-brainer, and also it reduces stress. At that price point, at £5, if one of the creatures has a tiny bit cropped off, or one of the creatures is slightly smaller than it should be, it's not a big deal. I hope I've answered your questions sufficiently. If there's any other questions, then please let me know. Otherwise, um, I guess it's my time to ask you something. Question of the day, question of the day. It's a little question before we go on our way. Question of the day is, yeah. So one is a cheeky question that is like, hey, have you backed the game? If not, why not? If you did, why did you back it? And yeah, I am curious about both sides of the question. Like, if not, why not? I'm kind of hoping that everyone just feels inspired to back it for £1 because you'll get the print and play files and hey, you'll be supporting me. But yeah, if you backed it, why did you back it? What motivated you to back this particular thing? If you backed it for £1, was it just because of the cheap price? Was it just to support me? Or was there something about the game that spoke to you? And actually, I'm going to ask a second question, which is, if this wasn't the last Kickstarter that you backed, what was the last Kickstarter that you backed? And what convinced you to back it? Let me know. So let's see. It says, it's not hard to make your own boxes if people want them. There are some cool crafting directions on the internet. Maybe you could just print a how-to box to add to the bags for people that want it. I feel like people who want to craft a box themselves are probably going to enjoy that sort of crafting process. I saw someone who'd made a wooden thing and laser cut it, and I saw someone else who'd made their own graphics, and it's like, yeah, absolutely. As long as it's for personal use, for containing the game that I made, I don't mind you reusing these things. And hello, Timmy. It is lovely to see you. Xate says the last Kickstarter back was a Geek and Sun table. So was that for the actual table, or did you actually get? So yeah, I'm curious as to what convinced you to back that particular one. And so presumably the reason that you haven't backed mine is because there's two things there. There's the £1 and the hassle. I'm guessing it's mainly the hassle, because honestly, if it is the £1, then I'd be happy to just PayPal you the £1 or whatever. So Vivan Me says Geek and Sun tables are great, but our customer service is truly awful. I hadn't heard that before, but apparently that is absolutely true. Apparently the reason is no credit card. You know, debit cards work as well. Xate says it's arrived last week, but the guy helping me set it up had COVID, so it's still in stacks, not built. I got the table with my first 2 months' pay, as I was still receiving alimony and I couldn't earn income. Ah, interesting. So did they back the table for you? So did you basically ask them to give you that as a gift? That makes sense. But yes, to everyone else, what was the reason for the last Kickstarter that you backed? Do let me know. And also, generally, over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. I am going to send out an email to everyone, do a wee bit more promotion, but I think that within a couple of hours, I'm going to try and get out the house. Maybe I could just literally go downstairs and then walk outside and back. It's not raining right now, but I am going to make sure that I'm out of the house for a good few hours today. But yeah, generally just doing more self-promotion, reminding people about the Kickstarter, making sure that everyone knows about it. Yeah. Oh, Timmy's tummy is hurt and is going to get some yogurt tomorrow. When you say tomorrow, I guess you mean technically today, because I know it's like the tiny wee hours for you right now. But yeah, is anyone else up to anything? Whether it's super serious, fun and frivolous, or something that you want to get off your chest, or just telling me that you need a rest. Feel free to share. Promise that's a care. So, recap and wrap up. How much to promote? As much as you can without annoying people. I think that's the key thing. Where to promote? Wherever you're reaching more different people. Like if there's a place where it has people you've not already reached, I think it's good to go there. Also, it's about, I guess, the efforts involved. How did this game come to be? I was inspired by all the quick games at Cannes 2020 and all the speed matching games. I thought, oh, why not make a speed not matching game? And then David Brain inspired me to reuse my ideas for Grabble, and Andrew Beardsley added the turnip mechanism. Started off with 3, but then clearly that was interesting enough to be a key part of the game, and it went up to 5, partially for card count. Also talked about Geek and Son having bad customer service, apparently, although that's just what I've heard. We talked about vegetables being brilliant, sustainable and healthy and colourful. If you want to check me out, I'm Stuff by Bez everywhere. If you want to check out what I'm up to on my stream, stuffbybez.com/streams. I'm doing something. I don't know if Dina's available tomorrow. I'll have to check. But tomorrow it'll be maybe some drawing. I don't know. Friday will be a quick 5-minute catch up on my way to go to playtest. Saturday I'll probably do some colouring in. Sunday I'm going to do a cooking show, and Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday it'll probably still be about this, but I've got Alan Paul apparently and Jess Medringham about Kickstarter information curation. But yes, spread the word. And thank you very much to everyone who's watching, everyone who backed a Kickstarter, everyone who supports me. Today, J-Fool's Guard has time to work on some of their own game. I hope that's it. Lovely. Does anyone want to go to work for me today? Timmy asks. I mean, I'm not sure I could do what you do. I'm really not a good programmer, but I do get that. Vivan apparently has a dentist. That sounds very fancy. Lucky you. And so with that, unless anyone else has any final things, I'm going to just say lots of love and bye bye, bye bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Bye bye, bye bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. So final comments, that's apparently there are some amazing tables, and with bells and whistles that Xate had hoped for. Bye bye Xate. I know my game isn't at all for you, but maybe you'll enjoy it one day, or maybe not. Timmy, bye bye. Lots of love. J-Fool's Guard, bye bye to you. Vivan me, bye bye, and I hope to see you on Sunday. And apparently they are good tables. But yes, bye bye, and keep vegetabling long. Bye bye.